Walikuwa na mambo ya kutukoroga kila mara. Walikuwa wanasema chama cha ANC ni Waluya tupu, ili waonyeshe kwamba sisi hatuna marafiki katika sehemu zingine za taifa letu. Leo nataka niwaambie hiyo porojo ikwishe, na imekwisha.
I'm just a young man with a funny name, Gekuru, from a small village, little known village called Kereti in Muranga. No big name behind me. But the party leader and the party leadership decided to make history in the politics of our political parties by giving young people a chance to serve.
I mean, Linus, that situation was really bad. I mean, I know the ANC leader talks about it in a sense to suggest that this is something people were just saying, but the regional nature of that party, at least in terms of the officials and all that, because even that Simon Kamau, I think, is replacing Barak Muluka.
Mm-hmm. Look, Joe, he says people are saying. Which people are saying? who is saying that? Who is he accusing of framing the party as a Luya party? You know, the party leader of ANC just needs to look at his recent media events and see that the accusation doesn't need to come from anybody. It just should come from the camera. Because either he himself or his handlers or the party itself has not been careful to manage their own optics. You will see in a very important, and Mudavadi makes some very, very pertinent statements, whether it's on the economy or very important weighty statements, flanked by who? Flanked by Savula.
Ayub
Savula. Flanked by Cleopas Malala. These are his fellow village mates.
In fact, I just want to add on that point, those who were present at this event were the national chair, Kelvin Lunani, Lugari MP Ayub Savula, Vihiga Woman Rep Beatrice Sadagala, Matungu MP Peter Nabulindo.
So, I mean, we said some time back how difficult it is for the tortoise to run away from its shell. And this is what ANC is grappling with. And it's not an ANC problem, it's a party problem in this country, where from the parties that we had in 1992, where you knew Ford was the home of all the progressive forces wherever they are in this country, whether they come from Central, Western. You know, I remember then when it split, there was Ford Kenya, and Ford Kenya had such a national face with Jaramogi Oginga Odinga as chairman.
The election, they had MPs in all the 8 provinces.
Yeah, absolutely.
Including Paul Mwite.
Yeah, Paul Mwite was the deputy party leader, deputy to Jaramogi Oginga Odinga. I think the Secretary General at the time was Gitobo Imanyara. You had in the ranks, you also had the likes of Kiraitu Murungi, you had Rashid Mzee.
Rashid Mzee was there from the coast.
From the coast. There was Farah Malim from Northeastern. You know, a party had a national face that it doesn't require the leader to do what Musalia Mudavadi has had to do, which is accuse the wind and say, oh, people have been saying that this party is ethnic. Let's face it, ANC has an absolutely Western face. You just read the list. How is Mudavadi the leader and Ayub Savula the deputy party leader? How national is that? Some of these optics have just been projected by the parties themselves. Musalia Mudavadi should not be accusing anybody. But where is the problem? The problem is in the way the parties are fearful of playing in the open space and introduce themselves as national parties. Where how was the new Secretary General picked, for example? It's a token appointment, an invitation to take up a position. And you see how grateful he was, you know, the youth have been given a chance and all that. The practice of competitive intra-party democracy is still a dream in Kenya. And you know, the day we'll have that is the day you will see an aspirant from Narok vying for position of Secretary General of ANC. Otherwise, for now, you just have to call your village mates, share out the positions, make them all your deputies, and accuse others of saying that party is tribal.
Yeah, and when we speak of the face of the party, that really is especially with the elected leaders on the party ticket. And could this be something about political parties and making those in the party structure more visible? Because to be fair, Musalia Mudavadi is a party leader, Lunani is the national chair, Adagala is the executive director. Then you've got Salim Busaidi, who's the chair of the elections board, Adagala, who's the chair of the Women's League, Omulo Jr. of the Youth League, and then you've got somebody like Captain Abdi Yare, who's the chair of the disciplinary committee, and a host of others that you take a look at. And that just tells you about how we never get to interact with the party leadership, but see more of the elected members. And so those are some of the things that then make you, view a party as such. There was something interesting that the young man said, and we aired it in the news just now, and he said, I may not be the best candidate, I may not be, and I thought, wow, okay, so why would they then pick somebody who's a party Secretary General, which is a very important and influential post, who is not necessarily the best? And it's statements like those that make it sound rather tokenist. He was actually a former legal officer at the Alliance Party of Kenya Elections Board and was elected Jubilee Party chair for Murang'a County before this happening now. But it is a statement, a very first statement like that I may not be the best, I may not be this. So then why were you picked?
Very important question. But Joe, look at it this way. Even the elected members of parliament, let's say governors, senators, and everybody else, look at where they are from. That should give you the first sign of how a party is structured, where a party's roots are. Maybe one day, as we move in the future, we will have a political party that can have members of parliament from across the country. That it will not surprise you when you have an ANC MP in Tana River, or a Jubilee MP in Kisumu, or an ODM member of parliament in Kiambu. You know, that kind of national touch in political parties. We are still on a journey as a country. We have not yet gone, we have not yet gotten where probably we ought to have. This 20 plus years of multi-partyism, actually almost 30 now, we are still on a journey. So every political party currently will try and look national by virtue of how they allocate positions, by virtue of how they will field candidates across the country. Every political party will want to look national. And you can understand where they're coming from. But it's also important to bear in mind, next election, you're likely to see very many political parties represented in the National Assembly and the Senate. Why? Because there's a realization that coalitions are the future, so to say. You will see each political party trying to get at least a number of MPs, so that when a national meeting or forum of leaders of political parties is called, even if you have 3 members in the National Assembly, you will be invited to that meeting. I have seen some interesting optics. When President Uhuru Kenyatta has met leaders, national leaders, let's say at State House, Nairobi, you've seen Dr. Alfred Mutua there. You've seen Charity Ngilu there. How many members of parliament does the NARC party that is led by Charity Ngilu have? How many members of parliament does Alfred Mutua's Maendeleo Chap have? How many MPs does Ford Kenya have? ANC? How many members of parliament do those parties have? You're likely to see
even KANU.
Even KANU. Actually, the majority leader in the Senate is a KANU leader. How many senators does KANU have in the Senate? Yet one of its senators is the majority leader. Tells you a lot of things insofar as the state of our political parties is concerned.
And that is interesting. So can I just buttress his point? 14 members of 14 elected members of ANC. I'll just tell you the region, so that should tell you something. Vihiga, Lugari, Nambale, Teso North, Vihiga, Matungu, Sabatia, Emhaya, Lurambi, Butere, Webuye West, Matuga, and Huisero, which is my mother's birth village.
Only one is outside Western Kenya.
Yeah, but
yes.
the other thing, and that's a very interesting point there, the other thing which strikes me is this idea of everybody wanting to form a party and holding on to it, because that's what we are seeing. And it reminds me a lot about, for example, what happens with the nominations. We saw, for example, in central Kenya, there was this hue and cry in 2017 about the nominations, and a lot of MPs at the time, you know, former MPs, governors, and all of those people like Kabogo, people like Ndungu Gethenji, all of these people who claimed that they had been rigged out. And so the talk you hear right now is that people want a corner where they are sure that even if it's a small party, but I know I will get a ticket easily, as opposed to being in the so-called big parties where there will be a lot of jostling. And that jostling is not because there is free and fair nomination going on, but the jostling is because people are trying to endear themselves to party leaders and that sort of thing. So you actually don't feel that there is any party in this country that conducts free and fair nominations so that people can have confidence in parties. So one of the things that I think we will need to discuss in this country, whether we really want parties, because parties have really never served the objectives for which they were formed in the first place. Parties are supposed to be the building blocks of a democratic society, where the party is democratic and therefore it attracts more members, therefore it becomes strong. Members will contribute and do everything to make sure that this party is actually strong. And then, if you have 2 or 3 parties of that nature, then you're beginning to talk of a strong democratic sort of foundation that the country can begin to build on. But here we have a situation where parties are run like personal fiefdoms, where people actually do what they want. If you're not close to the party leader, even if you're popular on the ground, you will not get this. So I think your prediction is spot on, that in this election we are going to see a lot of strange parties produce members of parliament for the simple reason that even the popular candidates that have a good presence on the ground will opt to go for smaller parties where they know they have a better chance of getting the party ticket, as opposed to the big parties where they're not too sure what the mood of the party leader might be on the eve of that nomination.
And didn't, didn't we have a defection from the newly elected Kabuchai MP? Majimbo Kalasinga, who was elected on one ticket and then moved to UDA?
He was elected on a Ford Kenya ticket, yes. But when the deputy president was in Western last weekend, he was in the company of the deputy president. But
just to buttress Joe's
interestingly,
point,
none of these MPs will defect, so to say, formally. They will do so by association. And it is expected. None wants a by-election. None wants to seek a fresh mandate. And so that's why they will say, we belong to this party, we associate with this political party, but none has the courage to say, hey, I'm leaving the party that I was elected on to go and seek fresh mandate on this party's ticket.
Yeah.
You see, I just wanted to say that the further we move away from politics of ideology, the more parties we have. Because we no longer have ideas that put a critical majority of people in one space. I'm looking at the current generation of our leaders and wondering what it would have been like in the 50s, late 50s and 60s, when KANU and KADU were then taking shape as political organizations that then negotiated our independence. It would have been very, very interesting to see how this current generation would have handled that situation. A lot of them would have turned up in London with their briefcase parties, each on their own, and there would have been a lot of confusion. Look, political parties, just looking by countries that have had it in a successful way and for a long time, political parties is a lot of work. It is so grueling. It's not an easy system. It's very, very difficult. It requires discipline. It requires of the kind that we've not been able to master as Kenyans since KANU left. And it also requires commitment, again of the kind we have not seen since the days of Kanu. When we look at party systems that are very successful, like what we see in the UK, where it's either Labour or the Conservatives in office, you see a very organized and robust internal party system that produces leadership. Do we have that discipline? Here, when we have nominations, people come to nominations already with 2 other standby tickets. If I don't win, I'll go as an independent or I'll defect to party A and B. I mean, that's just lack of discipline and commitment, because it means that you don't have anything that you believe about that particular party. The other thing we noticed with established political parties is there are full-time affairs where you have officials who do nothing else except run the party. You don't have this ridiculous thing where you have somebody you call a party leader. I mean, if you look at the Democrats and the Republicans in the US, presidential candidates have no party positions. You can't come and say, I am the party leader for the Republican Party, and so
I'm the presidential candidate.
The automatic presidential candidate. We're actually in a very bad space politically. We just don't know what it will lead to eventually. In the last 10 years, for example, we have seen what formlessness looks like in our politics. Right now, we sit in a space where we don't know who is government, who is opposition. That is what it translates to when we eat into the structures that work elsewhere. Party systems that are supposed to compete. This party competes with party B, and whoever wins forms the government, and then it's a competition of policies and ideas. I don't know why we think and believe that there's this uniquely Kenyan way of doing it, where we can all have our own parties and somehow call ourselves coalitions and things like that. I think as time goes by, if this trend continues, we should not be surprised by even a potential state of anarchy by 2032. Because we will not have any majority, we won't have any party that really means anything. Because everybody wants their own lane to power. And, so you want a party where you are already nominated.
Sure bet.
You are already nominated. The day you register your party is the day you've been nominated presidential candidate of the same party. You don't want a competition, go to UDA and compete with William Ruto, go to ODM and compete with Raila Odinga. Remember, we've never had a single successful primary in this country. But we've had very robust elections. If you look at our history, pre-independence. When Tom Mboya was defeating, I think, who was it in Limuru? I'll remember the name. But very, very competitive politics, and I think he won by 1 vote or something like that. Very, very tight races based on ideology, even though tribe slowly became a factor. So in terms of party politics, we don't sit in a nice place.
I'm not sure if it was Kiano, but I think
Linus is talking about form in political parties. You know, the form. I would say form in political parties is the leader. If the party leader is in a certain political party, that is the party's form, so to say. Picture this. Where is UDF? Where is PNU? Where is NAC? You know, PNU formed government,
Give us a president.
won a presidential election. Where is PNU? ANC leader.
Just pause for a moment, Francis, because I want us to go to a soundbite from a man who has run on different parties every election since 1992. Let's listen to Kiraito.
We have a program as the leadership of Meru, this time to be scientific in the way we approach our politics. As you know, there's a lot of perplexity, there's a lot of confusion and uncertainty at this particular juncture in the politics of Mount Kenya region. And we have thought the best way is to invite our leaders, especially those who are seeking presidency for 2022, to come in person, meet, interact with our people, so that when we come to select and vote for them, we know who is that person who we are supporting, and number two, what does that person stand for, and number three, how does he fit in?
Francis, that is Kiraito Murungi, and for the record, Kiraito Murungi is a respected contributor to the second liberation. The first time he went to Parliament, it was the first time, actually 1992, was on a Ford Kenya ticket. And these were the lawyers that were really in the streets fighting for multipartyism and reforms. But he has had to speak a different language every year, have a different party.
The bus party.
And I didn't understand a thing of what he was saying there. Maybe Francis, you did?
Well, he was talking about interests. That time, it was during the tour of Musalia in Meru. And he was saying that the region is welcoming all presidential candidates and aspirants to hear what they have to say and how they will take care of the interests of the region. Interests of the region are important, but national interests are also important. So each leader, each presidential aspirant who is vying will also have to showcase what national interest they have, so that that person at the smallest village, at the farthest corner of the country, must feel equally represented and as part and parcel of the plans of any presidential aspirant. Back to my initial submission. The form of a political party is also the form of the political party leader. If, for example, today you were to ask what would happen to ODM, for example, if Raila Odinga was to move to another party or form another political party, what would happen to Jubilee Party, for example, if President Uhuru Kenyatta was to say, at the end of my term, I'm no longer interested? So where the party leader is...
You know the answer to those.
Yeah, yeah, precisely. Where the party leader is where the party form is, to a great extent. The deputy president is the deputy party leader of Jubilee Party, the ruling party. But
party leader of it,
but for all intents and purposes, the party leader of UDA. Yeah.
Which is actually the reason why UDA is anything at all right now.
Fair point.
Precisely. So the form that Linus is looking for can be easily found in the party leader.
And that is actually what the problem is.
Yep.
That parties revolve around individuals, which is a big anomaly. I mean, Yvonne, there's no more dangerous way of organizing a political system than one where institutions or things that are supposed to be institutions revolve around individuals.
Yeah, that's absolutely right with our political parties, and that's why you see many of them being formed. How many, according to the political
73 now.
party 73
there are quite a number that are still
new
pending.
Political parties, yes, and many pending final approval.
More than 1,000 have booked names and symbols.
There you go, and that typically happens right, around this time. We're talking about parties leaving in 2013. How long before that election was TNA formed? TNA and URP went into an alliance known as the Jubilee Alliance. By 2017, the party that had sponsored Uhuru Kenyatta to the presidency in 2013 was no more. There was a new party that was the Jubilee Party. Look at what is happening within the Jubilee Party now that its purpose has been served, which was to get Uhuru Kenyatta to re-election as president in 2017. It is highly unlikely that it's going to present a presidential candidate in 2022, and who knows what that survival will be like. In fact, the other member of that party, who, like you say, is the deputy party leader, is now in UDA. What's going to happen? Take a look at what happened with even the PEP party, which Moses Kuria was fronting. They got one MP, George Koimburi. He quickly moved from that to Chama cha Kazi Party. Take a look at the new ones, the TSP, is it the Service Party of Mwangi Kiunjuri, who was himself a member of the Jubilee Party before. It's just you know, this mishmash, and there are no lines anymore. There are absolutely no lines. And it really is, let's see what happens in 2022 and indeed in 2027. Whoever becomes president, that party, we all know, special purpose vehicles, the party leader forms a party to be the presidential candidate. And then, you know, let's see what happens there. If take a look at Musalia Mudavadi himself, ANC, what was it before?
UDF.
And before that, UDF, the one you were talking about.
Bottom line, the political transfer season is open.
Yep.
So very many people will move from one end to the other. A person who was wearing this team's jersey will be wearing another team's jersey. Even as we speak now, there are people who were enjoined to play for Team A, but they are currently putting on two jerseys. The original team's jersey and the new acquisition, the new acquisition's jersey. So, I mean, it's pretty expected. And that says the nature of our political parties or the state of our political parties is not very healthy. We have a long way to go, Linus.
Yeah, figuratively speaking, if I borrow your jerseys, I think our politics party politics at the moment doesn't require any dressing up. But I want us to just have a look at some new players calling themselves Upya.
We want to be on the table where people are discussing the future of this country. Our regions have been, for a long time, have been an appendage of many agendas, political agenda. It's not going to happen anymore. We want to be part of the discussion. We want to be on the agenda. We want to articulate our position in as far as our welfare is concerned.
Uliza kitu moja. Mtu ambaye ni waziri ya finance anaweza kuwa mtu ya mkono kweli? Waziri ya finance ya nchi ya Kenya anaweza kuambiwa yeye ni mtu ya mkono? Kwa hivyo ikiwa yeye ni waziri, tumepewa sisi nafasi kama watu wa juu, sisi watu wa North, tumepewa hiyo cheo. Ishawahi kuwa kwa miaka 55 tushawahi kupata cheo kama hiyo? Alafu mtu anakuja kusema.
That's interesting, that last bit.
Oh, quite.
Is that the DPP?
Yep.
Quite uncharacteristic of him.
And the CS for Treasury, I mean.
DPP, he's yet to make an appearance in court. Any case, by the way, to the best of my recollection, is there a case we've missed?
No.
We need to see him in court, making an argument as strongly as
that
he is.
Vibrant. Because quite animated, actually.
Yes, but these are new players as well, Upya. And Francis, I think you've covered this once, and what we are seeing is they're trying to say, we are pastoralists. We are these other communities from the north that have not been listened to. Yeah.
And I think they know, Linus, that we have the kind of elections we have witnessed over the last 3 or so cycles are such that every vote counts, that every region matters, that even though that 50+1 thing is a real problem for every political campaign. And so they know that at a certain point someone has got to talk to them, that you might actually get to a point where that is the group that you need for you to go over the top. And I think that is what every region is beginning to realize. And these people have discovered that together they're actually a very big group of Kenyans. It's not just the small little pockets that we're talking about. They're looking at this and saying, if we can band together under something that resonates, you know, like now we are the pastoralist communities, we are the communities that have been marginalized and neglected over the years, and at this time will not just, ile wanasema kujaza kikapu, like the numbers ni kujaza tu, but now I think we are going to see them coming out more sort of boldly and making demands even before they can back whoever they choose to back. And I think that kind of movement is just beginning to happen.
Definitely.
But then it's also interesting that they paid allegiance to the handshake.
Yeah.
So much for they don't want kujaza.
No, but they're signaling where they are for the moment. And I mean, My own experience is that at the end of the day, those regions, for historical reasons, would really want to be in government, whichever government that happens to be. And for the time being, the handshake is the government, people would say that. And I think that they are staking their claim in the future dispensation, saying, you know what, we think it might be here, it might be there. But like you yourself said, a day in Kenya's politics is
a long time.
Eternity.
Joe, I look at it this way. I could be wrong, but I look at it this way. Regional caucusing is likely to be the selling point for next year's presidential contest. And take note of what is happening to the Mount Kenya team, for example, this Northeastern or Pastoralist caucus. You will see another caucus and so on and so forth. Look at what the Deputy President has also been doing. On the other hand, he calls them economic modeling meetings. He was in Southeastern this week, the Ukambani side. He has met the Nyanza team. There was that meeting with the Mount Kenya team in Kieni the other day, and so on and so forth. So all these presidential candidates or aspirants, for purposes of this argument, you will see them do a lot of regional caucusing, you know, with this impression that I want to listen to you guys so that I understand what your concerns are, you know, because interests and concern of region A are different from region B, and so on and so forth, so that eventually there will be prepared a blueprint, a manifesto that seeks to address your concerns more directly, yeah, and with your input, so to say. So you will see a lot of regional caucusing. I will not be surprised if there's another team, for example, that says we are now the Nyanza team, or we are the Western team, or we are, and so on and so forth. And these are basically for pre-election kind of bargaining, so that whichever presidential candidate they will say they support, you will see something of a conference, you know, that regional interests are represented. Let's say at Bomas or KICC or Kasarani or wherever, where a region will say, us as region A, we endorse so and so. Us as region B, we endorse so and so. Because, as you say, that 50% plus one question for a winning presidential candidate, very tricky.
And indeed, it was, they did say as much, I believe, in the meeting in Naivasha that we covered earlier this week. And they said, we heard from, I think it was Moses Kuria who said it, or Martha Karua. And, you know, they were saying, this is just the beginning of regional caucusing. Don't blame us if, you know, as a region, we're, you know, meeting to take a look at our interests, and that we will start here and then, you know, sort of have meetings with others, you know, caucuses from other regions, so that what you're saying could very well be that you have this region and all of these coming to endorse perhaps one
Let's
candidate.
remember, regions is testament to the failure of our party politics.
Precisely.
Because we call them regions, and that is polite for tribe.
For tribe,
These are tribes, these are ethnic communities making their political cases in the name of the community, and which is, it's really the lowest form of organization, very primitive, very short-term in nature, because look, governments are not cultural festivals. They are complex corporates that are run by competent people and all that. And the thing that people realize to their own disappointment, like we've seen in the last few months, you know, the complaints that come from regions that voted for government, is it doesn't work that way. It's not a regional thing, it's not an ethnic thing, it's more complex than that. So if you organize your votes on tribal lines, just know that governance cannot deliver along ethnic lines.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow, I think we need to take this home, as Jamila would say. And tonight we start with the kicker.